Something surprising just happened in Hollywood, and most fans didn't even see it coming. For years, Maya Hawke has lived much of her life in the public eye. As one of the breakout stars of Stranger Things and the daughter of two major Hollywood icons, Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman, people have followed nearly every step of her career. But this time, something huge happened completely under the radar, and by the time fans realized what was going on, it had already happened. In a move that shocked many of her followers, Maya quietly tied the knot with musician Christian Lee Hudson in a secret ceremony that few people even knew was happening. No big public announcements, no long engagement revealed to the media, just a private wedding that suddenly appeared in headlines almost overnight. The ceremony reportedly took place on Valentine's Day in New York City, a romantic date that somehow stayed hidden from the public until after everything was already done. Naturally, the news spread fast. Fans across social media were stunned. Many didn't even realize the two were seriously dating, let alone preparing to get married. And the more people looked into their relationship, the more surprising details began to surface. Because unlike many celebrity romances that play out loudly in front of cameras, this one seemed to unfold quietly in the background, almost as if they wanted the world to discover it only after the story had already reached its biggest moment. But here's the thing, the wedding itself wasn't the most unexpected part. Once fans started digging deeper, they realized that the story of how Maya Hawke and Christian Lee Hudson got here was far more interesting than anyone imagined. Their connection didn't begin with red carpets or Hollywood parties. It actually started somewhere much quieter, inside recording studios, long before most people were even paying attention. And the way their friendship slowly turned into something more is where this story really begins. Long before the wedding headlines and viral reactions online, the story between Maya Hawke and Christian Lee Hudson actually began in a much quieter place. Not on a red carpet, not at a Hollywood party, but inside a recording studio. While many people know Maya Hawke as an actress from Stranger Things, fewer realize that music has always been a huge part of her life. Over the years, she slowly started building a second career as a singer-songwriter, releasing indie-style music that felt personal, emotional, and very different from the Hollywood spotlight she grew up around. And that path is exactly what led her to Christian Lee Hudson. Christian had already made a name for himself in the indie music world as a respected songwriter and musician. Known for his thoughtful lyrics and quiet storytelling style, he had collaborated with several artists and built a strong reputation among musicians long before most mainstream audiences knew his name. At some point during Maya's music journey, the two crossed paths while working on songs together. What started as a simple creative collaboration quickly turned into something more meaningful. They spent hours writing, recording, and experimenting with music, at the kind of environment where people naturally get to know each other beyond surface-level conversations. And according to people familiar with their work together, their connections seemed to grow stronger the more time they spent creating. But at the time, nobody was really paying attention. There were no paparazzi photos, no public relationship announcements, no viral social media posts hinting at romance. To the outside world, they were simply two musicians working on projects together. In fact, Maya herself later hinted at how much she values relationships that begin with friendship first. During a past interview, she explained how meaningful it can be to date someone who already understands you as a person, not just the image people see on screen. And looking back now, that statement feels almost like a clue to how this entire relationship quietly developed behind the scenes. Because while fans were busy watching her career grow on television and in movies, something else was slowly happening in the background. A friendship was forming, and before long, that friendship would turn into something that fans would eventually notice, but only after one unexpected moment changed everything. For a long time, whatever was happening between Maya Hawke and Christian Lee Hudson remained completely under the radar. There were no public statements, no interviews hinting at a relationship, and definitely no big social media reveal. To most fans, they were simply two artists who happened to collaborate on music. Nothing more. But then, in late 2023, something happened that suddenly caught people's attention. In December of that year, photos began circulating online showing Maya and Christian together in New York City. At first, the images didn't seem like a big deal. Celebrities are photographed with friends all the time. But one detail in the pictures quickly changed the entire conversation. The two were seen sharing a kiss. Almost instantly, the photos started spreading across entertainment sites and fan accounts. And for many people, this was the very first time they had even considered the possibility that something romantic might be happening between them. Up until that moment, their relationship had been so quiet that fans had almost no clues to work with. But once the images surfaced, speculation exploded. People started digging through old interviews, past music collaborations, and public appearances, trying to figure out how long the two might have been close. Some fans even began pointing out moments where the pair had worked together musically, wondering if their chemistry had been developing long before anyone realized. Still, neither Maya nor Christian rushed to confirm anything. There were no official relationship announcements, no public statements, and no attempts to clarify the situation. If anything, the silence only made fans even more curious. Was it just a casual moment caught by paparazzi? Or had a secret relationship been quietly unfolding for months? Rumors continued to swirl online, but the couple themselves stayed almost completely private about the situation. And just when fans thought they might eventually address the speculation, another moment appeared that made the mystery even bigger. For months after those first photos surfaced, the rumors about Maya Hawke and Christian Lee Hudson continued to quietly circulate online. But without any confirmation from either of them, fans were left guessing. Some believed the relationship might be serious, while others thought it could simply be a short-lived romance that the public had overanalyzed. And then, in April 2025, something happened that suddenly gave people a new clue. That night, Maya and Christian appeared together at the opening of the Broadway production, John Proctor is the Villain, in New York City. The event was already attracting attention because the play starred Maya's Stranger Things co-star Sadie Sink. But what caught fans' attention wasn't the show. It was the fact that Maya and Christian arrived together. The pair walked the event side by side, posing for photos and appearing noticeably comfortable around each other. For many fans, this marked the first time the two had appeared publicly as a couple at a major event. Almost immediately, social media started buzzing again. Clips and photos from the night began circulating across fan pages, with people analyzing every small detail of their appearance together. Some viewers pointed out how relaxed they looked around each other, while others believed this moment was the closest thing to a relationship confirmation so far. But the real surprise came shortly afterward. Later that same month, Maya was spotted in Manhattan wearing what looked like a diamond ring on her wedding finger. And that single detail set off a whole new wave of speculation. Fans quickly began wondering if the couple had quietly gotten engaged without telling anyone. Entertainment blogs and celebrity watchers started discussing the possibility, pointing out how private both Maya and Christian had been about their relationship from the beginning. Still, just like before, neither of them confirmed anything. No engagement announcement, no interviews addressing the rumors, just silence. And that silence only made people even more curious about what might actually be happening behind the scenes. Because if the engagement rumors were true, it meant something much bigger could already be on the horizon. For months, the speculation continued to swirl online. Fans kept asking the same question: were Maya Hawke and Christian Lee Hudson actually engaged? But just like before, the couple stayed completely quiet. No announcements, no confirmations, nothing that clearly explained what was really happening behind the scenes. And then suddenly, the answer arrived in the most unexpected way possible. They were already married. According to reports that later surfaced, Maya and Christian had secretly tied the knot on February 14th, Valentine's Day, during a private ceremony in New York City. The date itself felt almost symbolic, perfectly fitting the quiet, romantic nature of their relationship. What shocked fans even more was how little information had leaked beforehand. In the world of celebrity weddings, it's almost impossible to keep something that big completely hidden. Paparazzi usually catch hints. Friends accidentally reveal details, or rumors start circulating months in advance. But somehow, this wedding managed to stay almost entirely out of the public eye until after it had already happened. Reports described the ceremony as intimate and carefully planned, with only close friends and family invited to attend. It wasn't a massive Hollywood spectacle with cameras and media everywhere. Instead, it appeared to be the kind of quiet, meaningful celebration that reflected the couple's personality. And when images from the day finally surfaced, fans immediately began analyzing every detail. Maya was seen wearing a stunning custom gown from Prada, featuring an elegant boat neckline and a flowing skirt that gave the entire look a timeless, classic feel. Standing beside her, Christian wore a traditional tuxedo, keeping the style simple but refined. But while the ceremony itself was private, the guest list revealed just how important the moment really was. Among those reportedly present were Maya's famous parents, actor Ethan Hawke and Hollywood star Uma Thurman, both there to watch their daughter take one of the biggest steps of her life. For fans who had only recently started noticing Maya and Christian together, the news felt almost surreal. Just months earlier, people were still debating whether they were even a couple, and now they were husband and wife. But once details about the wedding began spreading, fans quickly noticed something else that made the story even more interesting. Because the ceremony didn't just include family members, it also quietly turned into a mini reunion for some very familiar faces from Maya's most famous project. When the news of the wedding finally began spreading, fans quickly started looking for one thing in particular: who was actually there? Because whenever a major celebrity gets married, the guest list often becomes just as interesting as the ceremony itself. And in this case, the names that started appearing made the moment feel even more special for longtime fans of Maya Hawke. Among the guests were several of her co-stars from the hit Netflix series Stranger Things, the show that helped turn Maya into a global star after she joined the cast as Robin in season 3. And seeing those familiar faces together again instantly caught the internet's attention. Actors like Finn Wolfhard, Gaten Matarazzo, Caleb McLaughlin, and Sadie Sink were all reportedly present for the celebration. Other cast members, including Natalia Dyer, Charlie Heaton, and Joe Keery, were also spotted connected to the event. For fans who had spent years watching the group on screen, it almost felt like a real-life reunion happening behind the scenes. Photos and reports of the cast attending the ceremony quickly began circulating across entertainment pages and fan communities. People loved the idea that the friendships built while filming one of the biggest shows of the past decade had continued long after the cameras stopped rolling. It showed that for Maya, this wasn't just a work relationship. These were real friendships that had stayed strong over the years. And the fact that so many of them showed up for her wedding said a lot about how close the cast had become. For a moment, it almost felt like two different worlds coming together. On one side, Maya's private life with musician Christian Lee Hudson. On the other, the group of actors who shared one of the most defining chapters of her career. But even after the wedding and the guest list became public, fans still hadn't heard one very important thing. What did Maya herself actually think about married life? Up until that point, she had stayed surprisingly quiet about the entire situation. But not long after the ceremony, she finally decided to speak. And when she did, her response revealed something that fans had been wondering about for weeks. For weeks after the surprise wedding, fans were still waiting to hear something directly from Maya Hawke herself. The headlines had already spread everywhere. Photos from the ceremony were circulating online, and the internet had spent days discussing the unexpected marriage. But Maya had remained mostly silent about it all. That finally changed during the premiere of her romantic comedy Wishful Thinking, which debuted during the famous SXSOU conference and festivals in Austin, Texas. As reporters gathered to talk about the film, the conversation quickly shifted to the topic everyone had been curious about: her new married life with Christian Lee Hudson then. And this time, Maya didn't avoid the question. Instead, she gave a surprisingly warm and heartfelt response. According to interviews from the event, Maya described married life in a way that sounded both simple and incredibly genuine. She explained that things had been absolutely fantastic, making it clear that the past few weeks had been filled with happiness. At one point, she even admitted how lucky she feels right now. In her words, she described herself as a very, very lucky person, adding that she couldn't be more grateful for the life she currently has. For fans who had been wondering whether the sudden wedding meant the relationship had moved too quickly, her reaction seemed to answer that question immediately. She looked relaxed, happy, and completely comfortable talking about the new chapter of her life. And interestingly, this wasn't the first time Maya had hinted at how she views relationships. In a previous interview months earlier, she spoke about the idea of dating someone who already knows you deeply, someone who understands who you are beyond the public image. She explained that relationships built on friendship can feel stronger because both people already see each other as real human beings, not just idealized versions of each other. Looking back now, that perspective seems to describe her relationship with Christian almost perfectly. Their story didn't start with flashy headlines or dramatic public declarations. It began quietly, through music, friendship, and time spent creating together. And now, that same quiet connection had led them all the way to marriage. But even after hearing Maya finally talk about the relationship, fans were still left thinking about one bigger idea surrounding the entire story. Because the way this wedding happened raised an interesting question about celebrity culture itself. When people look back at the story of Maya Hawke and Christian Lee Hudson, one thing becomes very clear: almost no one saw it coming. In an industry where celebrity relationships are usually broadcast across social media, talked about in interviews, and followed by paparazzi at every step, this one unfolded in a completely different way. Quietly. There were no dramatic relationship reveals, no months of engagement announcements, no carefully staged media moments leading up to a big wedding. Instead, The entire relationship seemed to grow naturally behind the scenes, starting with music collaborations, turning into friendship, and eventually becoming something much deeper. By the time most fans even realized they were together, the couple had already taken the biggest step possible. They were married. And that unexpected timeline is exactly what made the story feel so surprising to so many people. In a world where celebrity lives are constantly on display, Maya managed to keep one of the most important moments of her life incredibly private. For some fans, that privacy actually made the story even more meaningful. It showed that despite growing up as the daughter of Hollywood stars like Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman, Maya has chosen a path that feels much more grounded and personal. Rather than turning her relationship into a public spectacle, she allowed it to develop quietly, away from headlines, cameras, and endless speculation. And when the news finally did come out, it wasn't surrounded by drama or controversy, just two people who had clearly built something real together. Now, fans are starting to wonder what comes next. Will the newly married couple create more music together? Will Maya Hawke continue balancing both her acting career and her passion for songwriting alongside Christian Lee Hudson? Only time will answer those questions. But one thing is certain, what started as a quiet friendship between two artists slowly turned into one of the most unexpected celebrity love stories people have seen in a long time. And somehow, the entire world only found out after the final chapter had already begun.